Hello and welcome to episode 187 of the Imperial Truth podcast. I'm Greg. Joining me, as usual, is Howard. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Greg. You doing okay?
Yeah, mustn't grumble. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I was particularly enjoying the very up version of that you said this today. It felt like quite the intro. It felt like a fanfare. I'm on board with that. That's very exciting.
Just caught me the one time I'm not being a miserable git. It's probably
We'll mark
what
it
it
in the
is.
calendar. We'll mark it in the calendar
Yeah, I would.
as a sea change of things. Going very well, actually. Tired because that's what everyone is apparently, but otherwise all pretty good. Wish I had more time for hobby. Also probably something that
I,
everyone thinks.
I think we've just reached that age where everyone's tired because they've all got young kids or what
Mm.
have you, or job issues or whatever. But there we go. It's all
Who
part
knew?
of the fun.
Responsibilities are tiring. Yeah, who knew?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But all good. What about yourself? You all right?
Yeah, not bad. Mustn't grumble. Lots to grumble about, but mustn't do it. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's all the usual. But yeah, no, it's certainly been worse, shall we say.
Good.
Uh, before we move on, Element Games for all your toys, all your Saturnine bits and pieces that are coming out separately at the weekend, if you wish. All your glues, all your, I don't know, new books when they release them for a new book series, maybe, or board games, or whatever else it may be, hobby related, gaming related, painting related. Yeah, they got a shed load of stuff, and they've got multiple stores now. There's like what, Newcastle, Sheffield, Nottingham, London, Birmingham, and then Prime, Element Prime. So, and I heard a rumor that someone I know might be involved with the running of the London one. I need to look
Oh,
into that. Indeed.
I did
So,
run into the manager there last time I was
what's
in,
his
picking
name?
up a few bits. Oh, goodness me, I didn't get that far. I
Oh,
offered to put some stock back for him that I was considering and doing other bits and helping him out with the bits anyway. Didn't get
you're
into that
such a
level of
shill.
chat. And 100%, that's what I was going for. Uh, um, but every time I go in, they seem to have added another increasingly obscure paint range, and I'm like, yes, I'm all here for this 100%. They bought me out because I didn't expect them to stock it in store. They have what used to be called Abtilong, it's now ABT. Who is it? Anyway, it's a AK's oil paint range, and they are very good. Big fan, and they were in store, which is cool because then you can peruse them and things. And I think they've got the P3 range that's back in released as a new paint range. I think that's coming in. So yeah, they all the obscure things, elements you place.
Indeedly doodly. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. I was going to say some stuff there about other stores, but Element, they do what they do. They don't offer like the mega, like the extra discounts that some people do every now and then. They run a fairly solid kind of style of business, and I kind of dig what they do, to be honest, and that's why I use them.
Mm.
Um, they've I've had orders that haven't necessarily been correct at times, like or there's been an issue with, but in general, every time I've dealt with customer service, it's been handled, and that's as far as I'm concerned. All you can ask. You can't expect perfection every time. So I think that if mistakes are corrected for me, then that's what you want. And they have almost everything you want, and you get it. I can't remember the last time I didn't get something on a Saturday. It does happen every now and then, but it normally comes a Saturday release, which is also a big bonus because it
Mm.
means you've got that weekend where you're super hyped to do hobby or whatever to do it. So
Yeah, it's never been quite like hearing other people get excited and stuff arriving and things, and then you're like, oh, I didn't arrive
yeah,
today. It's only a weekend. That can feel like a
or
very long weekend when you
especially if you've
haven't got
managed,
the thing. Mm.
especially if you've managed to set aside some time to do it. Now, normally
Yeah.
it turns up and then I get called into doing other stuff and can't do it.
That's different. Having it and
But
not
yeah,
and choosing not to do it
exactly.
is different to not being able to. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Excellent stuff. Um, we have got, I will actually, we normally do this at the end of the show. We have got a affiliate for merch.warhammer, I think it is, the Warhammer merch store. I am
Yes.
currently wearing a t-shirt they sent me.
Oh, hello.
which I need to post up on the socials to advertise. I've got you might have seen some social media types posting with their Ultramarine Space Marine 2 shirts. I have got one of Titus lifting up a Hormigant in the air.
I'm enjoying
So
that you were clearly looking down at yourself
I am.
as
You
you were
could
saying
tell
that.
I was
The
straining.
distortion. Yeah.
Indeed, I was just double checking it was a Hormigant. Yeah,
Love that
cool.
attention to
It's
detail. Yeah.
I am currently wearing it because it's quite a cool T-shirt. But if you're into things like the Joy toys, then they are on there, and T-shirts, and then like the mugs and other things that I suspect move less quickly in our
Is it
for our
is it
listenership anyway.
is it them who just started doing helmets? Or a
I
helmet
think
initially?
they have. I think they might have them on there. Yeah. They actually went live just after the announcement came
Yeah.
out and had sold a number. Yes,
Right.
you can actually buy. There's a discount going on at the moment as well on the store, so you can buy one of these T-shirts and the helmet together, the Space Marine helmet for £139.99.
I
Which is pretty cool.
believe we may have got that for. In fact, I know we have got that for a friend of ours' birthday
Oh,
gift. So
cool.
I just wondered if it came from that source.
I
But
think
it
you
does.
can. It's like the Joy Toys. They have a selection on site.
Mm,
But obviously you can get them lots of other places. You can go and buy the new Razorback for a lot of money because it's a huge toy.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, loads of shirts, loads of all kinds of stuff
Have
and
you seen
things.
people with the? Have you seen the images of people with the knights?
No, I haven't.
They are. They are the size
I
of a
mean,
warlord. They
yeah,
are
they are massive.
massive and
Yeah,
surprisingly good value if you do use that as your point of comparison.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a
It's a
tricky one,
relative,
isn't it?
surprisingly good
Yeah,
value when compared to a
indeed,
warlord.
for sure, for sure. They've got like candles and socks and that kind of stuff. What's insignia? Is that art? Is that battle one? Oh, they've got
Badges?
no, it's clothing range with like logos rather than everything else. They got like battle worn logos
Mm.
on shops and things. Video game video game merch. Yeah, lots of different stuff on there. As I say, you can get some of that stuff via other places as well. But we do have a link, so it should be in the show notes. It should be on my link tree on the Instas and the Facebooks and the Twitters and all that jazz. So we got that, and we've got a link to Battle Bling. Particularly if you're into Titanicus and LI, there's cool stuff for that
Oh
that you can
yes.
get from Battle Bling, 3D printed stuffs. And then we've got also another one on Patreon. If you really, really like us, God bless you. But you feel like you want to support the show by giving maybe $1 a month, because we charge per month, no matter what we do in that month. Yeah, if you feel like it's worth tipping us $1 to help keep the lights on and post things and try and get a better sound quality, which we're trying to do because there's some issues at the moment that we're trying to work out and things like that. You can do that at Patreon as well. There are no extra tiers to Patreon. There are no extra benefits. This is purely a tip jar. We're not locking content behind a paywall. We're not charging lots to then offer a few little bits and pieces out. Nothing like that. It's just is what it is. We lay it all out for you. So thank you for anyone who supports the show in any way, whether you've told a friend, sent a question, emailed to tell us that we're wrong, paid money for something, or used an affiliate link. Then it's all very much appreciated.
I'm fairly sure that someone or people have been using the crystal codes with Element, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that a great deal. That really does catch you out occasionally, and you're like, oh yeah, that's just a nice, like you say,
yeah,
it's amazing what a lift it is just having a little tip jar type thing like that. It's quite a big deal.
Yeah, I see more crystal codes linked than clicks through the link. Again, not a problem, just a point of fact. But that might be in part because like they get saved like on some browsers and stuff.
Yeah.
It can come up.
Well, whatever it
But
is,
yeah,
it's cool. I'm on board
yeah,
with it.
absolutely. It's lovely and it's nice to feel appreciated as well. That's cool. Okay, should we move on to some actual hobby and things? What have you been
Yeah.
up to?
Well, my main thrust, apart from doing various bits for Saturnine, as we were doing just to test out those kits and so we could talk about them properly, in parallel with that, I've had a real Legions Imperialis epic scale thrust at the moment. I've been quite into that because it was continuing this idea I had of taking the formations of legend, trying to build those up. The two that are in the Talon book, the
Sure.
Imperial Fist one and the Alpha Legion one. Use that as the basis of building a couple of small forces so that I could host games here. Um, and I've been plugging away at that at different times, chatting with different people about how you might make those into you might expand those into a more rounded list so that it didn't skew, and just working at that scale, trying to get through the backlog of kits and do what I could and try and do it as a proper army project, not I'm gonna nail this unit and then move on to the next one. It's like no, do this en masse and not worry too much about the details behind all of this. So yeah, that's been quite fun. The Alpha Legion, particularly, I'm quite pleased with having gone backwards and forwards on. Oh, I've got that color wrong. They're too dark, or that doesn't look very Alpha Legion. A very difficult kind of color, that kind of teal, light blue color that they are, to get it to be what I wanted a bit to be in my own head. So yeah, but I'm very pleased with that now. It's looking quite good. And working on some titchy tiny leviathans and some titchy tiny contemptors right now. That's been the main thrust, and I'm trying to decide what to do with the Mark IIs from the Saturnine. I was very kindly gifted a Saturnine box from my gaming group here as my birthday present for the just recently. So that was a delight to get receive that, and I now need to do something meaningful with it. So I'm trying to decide whether I will put the Mark IIs into. They feel like they've got to be. I don't know why, but I feel like they've got to be traitors. So I will probably go to Sons of Horus, but then I want to do something kind of cool with them, make them proper veterans of legend. So yeah, that's kind of where my hobby's at. What about yourself?
Well, bits and pieces, as you all know, I am not necessarily the greatest in terms of my hobby output, but been played one game of Heresy at the
Ooh,
club.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, thoroughly trashed because I turned up and there were 2 units of Cenobium, and I was like, oh, you haven't got the things to deal with them. Maybe some specials can run into them and got some grey slayers. Oh no, they can't.
Ooh.
No, no. So yeah, that was
Two
interesting.
units. That person wasn't playing. Okay.
That's Giles, bless him, from the Merchant Princelings podcast. Yeah, there's he's not a power gamer, but his armies can tend to lean towards trimming the fat,
Hmm.
which I think is not uncommon. And I
Not
bought
against it. It's just like that just sends a message.
yeah, and I know I say he's not like bringing like the filth to bring the filth, but he does bring harder armies.
Hmm.
I say there tends to be fewer. I'm bringing this because they're cool choices in there. Um, but it was more about getting used to things. I made some mistakes and getting used to how the game works and stuff, and how good las cannons are about taking out rapiers, and how resilient land raiders can be,
Mm.
and getting weapon choices wrong and getting options wrong and things like that. And say just trying to learn the game as much as anything else. Uh, it's quite well, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, played that. That was cool. I've been playing some Age of Sigmar, and I've kind of I'm in this point at the moment where I'm like I've got a handful of Sigmar models to build to finish off the army that I'm kind of using, which will probably then change straight away. So I've been trying to get that done and sorted so they're all built, even if they're not painted, and slowly working on my Saturnine Dread
Yeah.
for my wolves, which I mean, it is slow progress. I've got to change the way I do things a little bit, and I'm maybe thinking a wash might help. That I need to make the grey stand out a little bit more than it is, and I just missed that trim there, which would help as well. But trying to sit there and focus on like what is it I want to do at the moment, and then start it and then finish it, like finish things.
I am
So
very much moving between lots of different things. I've also I've gone back into the printer, back into the 3D printer.
right, yeah,
Partly because I picked up a new one. There was a sale and birthday, so got that and have been printing terrain, and that is very easy to go down a whole other rabbit
sure,
hole of stuff. And I'm like, hang on, you need to stop this. And you need to actually have a plan, actually work to something. Don't just randomly, oh, print that. Oh, print that. Oh, what's that? That's shiny. Let's print one of those. Oh, actually, I've just collected 20 gigabytes worth of STLs, which I'm never going to use. It can get a bit bonkers. You can procrastinate to a whole new level of hobby with that as well. So yeah, I know what you mean about trying to work through something. The Saturnine Dreadnought is one of the things I've seen quite a few people sort of suddenly come up and go like, "This thing looks amazing." However, this is quite the kit. This is not push fit. This is not.
I you made me think. I still want to get you to or someone to print me off a War Master army at some point, but that's so far down. Like, why am I doing that? Let's not worry about that at the moment. Not worry about that. So yeah, I've kind of trying to hit a thing where it's like, right, concentrate, do the one thing, get it
Yeah,
done, like work out the process of getting quicker, but staying focused. But then something comes along, like, we do get sent stuff from GW. We got the Saturnine box set, and you want to do at least some of that, to support, to say thank you for the support we're getting.
but also
It's
so that
because
you
it's
can actually
cool as
talk
well.
about it. So you can talk about it
Yeah,
meaningfully rather than
absolutely.
say, "Oh, I got it," and it's over there in a box, and I might get to it
Yeah,
eventually. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous and ungrateful. But more importantly, it means you can't actually talk about the thing. I mean, I'm not
yeah, for
necessarily going to
sure.
smash it out and have it painted to the quality of a bunch of people
Ah,
that you see online. But what I can do is then offer an opinion, which I feel entirely vindicated that lots of people are also griping about the Mark II Centurion, for example. Um,
I'm glad you got that out of the two of us. Um, I need another Saturnine Dread because for some reason I built it in a daze and glued the arms on. Why did I do that? But hey, it is what it is. So at some point I need to pick up a Saturnine Dread. There should be a few floating around because people got lots
yeah,
of boxes. So, but yeah, if they send me something, I want to, yeah, as you say, have a look at it. But also, they are there is no obligation, but you want to, if someone sends you something like there's a, cool, let's have a look at it. Like we, we're the kind of people, if we really don't like something, we just won't talk about it too much. Like,
yeah.
we might mention it if we review something
Or
and we'll say
at
we
least
don't
try and
like
be
it.
objective about it.
Yeah,
You
but
try and
we'll
be.
move on quick, wouldn't we?
Yeah, you
Like
wouldn't, you
we're
wouldn't,
not
you wouldn't,
here
you
to
wouldn't
ruin it.
luxuriate in like, oh,
No.
you wouldn't luxuriate in it. But equally, you just move past it, don't you?
Yeah, so if they sent me a box and I was like, I really don't want them. Well, I mean, the good thing is I'll probably just send it to you because you might like it. So, that kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thing
true.
works
We
as
we
well.
have
So,
different. We have disagreed on more than one thing over that
oh,
age.
absolutely. Yeah, you're allowed to be wrong, Howard. It's fine. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of my hobby. I've got loads of spruce out around. I've got a few Cities of Sigmar bits. I've been watching some artist opus videos to kind of get an idea of what I want to do with that, and then it's finding the time to sit down, clear desk,
Hmm.
focus. Oh man, I'd have a decent job if I could focus and concentrate and put my mind into something, but that's me. So yeah, it's all
Can't
fun.
complain. Just having a job. That's not
No,
that's not a bad thing.
no, but sometimes I do sit there and think, oh, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if only I could
To be fair, yeah.
engage this brain in a slightly different way, I I could have maybe a more fulfilling job and certainly earn a little bit more money. But that's not everything, is it? Anyway, what a weird rambling hobbies section
We
that
took
was.
we took a turn there, didn't we? Yeah.
We
Should
did.
we move on?
We probably should. Was there anything? I think we're going to cover some of what we talked about last time. There's some maybe some retorts to what we talked about, or different changes. We'll talk about
Interesting.
that as we move forwards. And I think, we'll go to a break and then we'll come back and jump into what's been going. Right, now we're going to be laser focused on what's been going on in the heresy. So obviously we recorded, it came out mid-month because of the release of Saturnine. Did you know Saturnine's out?
Did that happen?
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
Horus Heresy 3, the best/worst game that GW have ever released, ever. Part 3, part 3. It's all good fun. Following on from everything that happened there, we're not going to, well, I suppose we should say, we're not going to touch on the Legacies book because this episode is going to be a bit shorter, and then we're going to put out an episode once the Legacy's out. Hopefully, depends on when I'm in Cornwall and when the Legacy's released. So we'll have to play around with that. But we did get told there are going to be Legacy books with lots of different units in there. I don't really want to talk about the reaction of the community too much, but I feel like I have to
Well,
voice an opinion on
what
my
is it?
place on it.
There was a
Um,
reaction when because the Liber books leaked.
yeah.
Um,
Well, this is part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
This all happened before the release came out.
Yeah.
So information was leaked and was quite clearly like the real thing, but it wasn't all. Took a long while for full information to come out, which I don't think helped.
Yes.
Which was why there was some kickback towards the people who'd been sent the stuff, which is crazy. Like it's not Guerrilla Miniatures Games' fault that GW have chosen to do something.
Yeah.
Them getting product, has only actually helped you try and make judgments. Like they're not going to show you the information that they've signed a document to say they're not going to tell you. That kind of thing. It's a bit childish. But they followed it up eventually with this list of everything that's coming in the legacies. It's quite a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So
It's much bigger than I think a lot of people could have speculated about. Did you think it would be that big?
I mean, yes and no. Like they told us, I'm not going to get into whether they made some statements like you can use everything you've got. Like 98% of that's going to be true. You might not be able to use them as what you use them as. Like there are things that aren't legal in how you use them in second edition that you might have to use something as a destroyer squad, or you might have to swap a grey slayers to be stalkers to actually swap them for slayers and things like that, or tacticals or what have you. But you can generally use everything, so there had to be a lot in the legacies, and there were a lot in the last legacies as well. So I'm not. It came out. I wasn't surprised. I didn't necessarily think it would be this big, but it didn't surprise me that it was this big.
I sort of speculated that it was. While I thought there would be quite a lot, I was surprised that it was as big as it was because I thought they might use this as an opportunity to in the range. And thin
Sure.
the support. And I know you could say, well, the range isn't what the legacies thing is about. Actually, it's the levers or what the range is about, which is kind of what they went on to clarify, which I think was quite useful. But that's why I was surprised by contrast to your own experiences. I was a little surprised that it was as
Well,
big as it was, and pleasantly so.
so I've heard a lot of people talking. It appears this legacies document has been delayed for whatever reasons. There's rumours out there that They've had emergency meetings at
I'm not convinced those are
whoever.
rumours. I'm not convinced those are rumours. I think that's more speculation. But yeah, it's a minor
Um,
point. But yeah.
So I know some of the people who've talked about it who are very specific.
Okay.
So I think in that they believe they've been told.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
so I think it does qualify as a rumor.
Okay.
That,
Fair enough.
I don't
That
know
that
their
escalates
source.
it. That's news to
Yeah,
me because everything I'd seen up to this point was pure speculation, which
yeah,
is kind of
yeah.
encouraging
And
that it that presses onto that.
and there's a logical speculation in that as well, as other people might be doing it. But there is some rumors that that's
Hmm.
happened.
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever. If they, it's a really tricky one for me. I think the obvious, like loud, like the amount of noise around the release about the lack of clarity. Now, let's get this out there straight away, right? Um, the communication of what's happened here is not necessarily the best. Probably, you probably could have seen the reaction coming. I don't think it's necessarily right. I think they did tell us legacies were coming and things like that. And I think that for me, I was like, cool. All right, let's wait and see. It's not a long period of time, but I think based on what's happened previously with GW, that they probably should have suspected that something like this could happen. They could maybe have got ahead of the game, right? And that includes the legacies are now not in July. Like, possibly should have put that out yesterday at latest,
Hmm.
before people are then like, well, you missed your deadline. You're giving ammunition to people who don't need any extra ammunition at the
Hmm.
end of the
Hmm.
day. So maybe that can be handled differently. And and I'm not having a go at any one person. There's lots of things in GW. There's lots of departments. There's how much control do specialist design studio have over the message that's being put out, because that's put out by marketing. So and things happen without any intent sometimes. Like, there's lots of reasons these things can happen, but they could have been clearer about what was happening. Now, if the legacies are delayed because they're adding in extra stuff and things like that because of the backlash, and I don't agree with this backlash. I think you can certainly voice your opinion, but you can do it in a way that is critical without being offensive or becoming a personal attack.
Hmm.
Um, have you seen Arbitorian's latest video about why legacies are a thing? And
I have not, and that has
it's
immediately made it. I didn't even know it was a thing.
yeah,
I'm
recently, a
moving to
couple of
make
days
it
ago.
on the watch list now. Now you said
Yeah,
that.
and it covers things like the Chapter House court case,
Oh
and
wow! Right.
well, yeah, because that's part of it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. No, just
the
interesting that
long
it's
history of
that
this
wide ranging.
is, yeah, because
I also think
GW
that's quite
don't.
a difficult topic, and if for him,
He
someone
handles it
such
well.
him, I was going to say for someone such as he to take that on, I imagine that would be quite
But he
interesting.
doesn't. He doesn't cover the ins and outs of it. He just says, he says what's happened,
How can
and
he?
the ramifications have been that GW have stepped back from showing off artwork of models that haven't been released or aren't going to be released, or releasing models, releasing rules for models. That it's not. It's not a comprehensive flat. No, we don't do this, but it's part of this bigger thing of how they're managing their range, their releases, covering their IP, all
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And there's lots of departments involved in this. If someone's saying, but he moves on from that, he talks about competitive side of 40k. You know, the game became more competitive with the internet because people could look up other people's lists and blah 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 blah, which was harder to do back in the day. And when you release, the classic example that he brings up is the Chaos Havocs. Long Fangs were the same. Long Fangs and Devastators. Long Fangs, you got a heavy bolter, a missile launcher, a las cannon, and a plasma cannon in one squad. Well, as soon as you're playing tournaments, having those four, unless you got Long Fangs, you could get away with it a little bit more. But Devastator squad with four different weapons that achieve different things is not the most optimal build. So, oh well, I want four las cannons.
Hmm.
Okay, but we don't do bits parts anymore. So the complaint was, as he points out, um, well, you're making us buy 4 kits to buy these 4 las cannons. So GW say, fair enough, right? We don't want to be accused of the money grab that people are accusing them of. So you know what we'll do? We'll rectify that. Yeah, they're not going to go and redesign those models that have only come out, 4 months ago. So they then reduce the options and say, well, cool, you can take what's on the sprue, and we'll continue to do that going forwards. Because again, when we've talked about, they could put another sprue in, the price goes up. Well, it's not like it's something I hadn't necessarily thought about with the manufacturing when I've talked about it before. If you've got 2 sprues in a box, and then you want to add in a third sprue to cover options, that's 50% more time on the machines.
Yeah.
And 50%, and the packaging has to increase, and the other things as well. It's 50% less profitable. Like, time on the machine is a lot of, like, GW can pump out Space Marines, or they can put this out. So they've only got, I think, I'm trying to remember, like 70 machines, 58, 56 machines, something like that. Like, you can only make so much stuff at once. And if you're reducing that time because you're putting in all the options and stuff, well, guess what? Price is going to go up. So, and they don't want to do that because they know that people won't buy stuff. So all those things combine into them going, right, cool. We'll put what we can on the sprue, but those are your options, and you will only be able to select what's in the options. Cool. So you've pleased a lot of people until, there's no extra bits to make conversions, and I'm limited to these options. That's no good. So the rules then have to match that. So the rules become less modifiable, less granular, and it leads towards what people think is an oversimplification within 40k. Not just that, because obviously it's designed as a more intro game, but there are reasons for legacy documents to have all this stuff in. If you look at, I can't remember exactly where we started with this. I've gone on and on, but when you then look at resin models being even more restrictive, unless, now you've got the weapons kits. Like, the beautiful thing about 30k actually is they put out a weapons kit, which is a box. So you can buy that, and then you can use that to modify your other things. But if your resin kit comes with the arms all as one piece or whatever, then you're kind of stuck doing that, because IP law is such that you can't always defend it if you haven't got exactly the right thing, blah, blah, or you don't want to go to court to try and defend it, because that's costly. As it is, even if you're in the right, it's not necessarily the best thing to go to court. So all of that means that you're getting, it appears to me that what they're doing is they're approaching this a little bit similar to they did with 40k and the Primaris, but sort of having a little bit of knowledge, maybe not enough, kind of looking back at what happened there, because they wanted to get rid of Space Marines. They wanted Primaris just to come in, like, get rid of the old lot. And then they were like, we're going to give you time. And that time has extended and extended and extended because people aren't happy. Well, if they're going to change things up with new plastic kits for Heresy, like, maybe the weapons options for a loadout are going to change. So let's pull out the I don't know. Let's think of someone like a warmonger, right? I can't remember what they come with, like the resin model, but it comes with a hammer or whatever. Yeah, and you want to take something else. Well, they only make a model with a hammer, but maybe down the line they're going to bring out a plastic warmonger because they're moving away from resin. So if they put them in the book, they have to restrict the loadout, and then later on offer out a PDF, and then people are going to be like, it's not a straightforward thing. It feels like they've moved this here because guess what? GW don't really want to do resin anymore. It's going to take some time, but Cataphracta and Tartarus, let's look at them. Hopefully they're going to get new. Maybe there's a new Tartarus kit coming, and they've taken Power Fists off. So cool, they come with that. You can't take Power Fists. I think the water's muddy then when they have this kind of, oh well, we want to do this, but people have got this, so we have to do this. So there's just a lot going on, and I've not done that in a coherent manner. But
I think there's a couple of aspects to this, and there's been obviously been a great deal of discussion, some far better than others, debating it and people's reactions to it. It's a difficult problem, and it's one that they have history. The Games Workshop have history of tackling, and to greater or level degrees of success, depending on how you measure success. And you use one example there as 40k. Yeah, I can understand why people would be annoyed, very annoyed, if you have built a collection, you built models, and they are no longer usable in this. There was no guarantee that it would do. You build the models for an edition of a game. There's no guarantee that that's going to go forwards. There's no pledge, and there's no otherwise.
no,
You bought your models. That's not to say, well, therefore we will now support that model forevermore. It shakes your faith slightly when when that happens, but I can entirely understand. In fact, it was paramount in my own mind when I had thinking that isn't going to work with some of my more obscure things that I've built or otherwise. Less suboptimal is a different matter, not actually usable at all. And for those who'd built an army of White Sky jet bikes, for example, that you sort of think, yeah, okay, I get it. Where characters and things are otherwise, you can hope, but hope isn't a great thing to have to work with. That comes back down to that communication. I said principally,
yeah,
with you're planning these things to the scale that they are. I would have thought it would have been relatively straightforward to put that legacies thing
yeah, up
together
front,
earlier than it was.
yeah. But there is
Regardless whether you
like,
speculate whether it's going to be leaked or not, you sort of think there would have been a way of addressing that. And it's also then a question of there seemed to be not an entitlement, that's very patronising and condescending, but there was a sense that, from what I was reading across multiple different sources and channels of people of community talking about it, that somehow the heresy in particular was predisposed or founded on, but somehow based on the ability to customize a great deal more than certain other things. And I thought, is
the
that
elitism shone through
it certainly seemed to be an aspect of what some people thought, or that
big
to
time.
them, I should say, to them, that's what heresy was about. And I thought, well, that's not necessarily okay. That's absolutely reasonable that it is to you, but that doesn't mean it is universally, and we haven't got the data for that either way. There's certainly not a statement of that nature. And I've found some of the comparisons, particularly with people who were in multiple different games. I found some of the comparisons where those who were, say, big fans of the old world were looking incredibly enviously at what heresy
Oh
seemed
yeah,
to be
big
getting.
time.
But there was a comparison there, whereas there was people who were solely within heresy, or perhaps heresy and 40k and the sort of the sci-fi games, if you will, who were much more kind of alarmist about it and like, well, this is dreadful, this is outrageous, I'm in despair and anger and all the rages. And there were people in old world going, I can't believe how good you've
Yeah,
got it.
exactly.
You've got all this range support. You've got all of this. Oh, and by the way, we're going to allow you to support absolutely everything that ever existed. You just had to wait a couple of days for it. So you think, well, all we're talking about then is a communication timing issue. There's a it's a
It
it's
was
a
a
it's a nuanced and quite large topic, which I won't
it was a
continue
it
to
was
on
there
about.
was a lot of very narrow views
Mm,
being expressed. But I
mm.
think the biggest factor was they were being expressed a week before the book had even been allowed to be shown, and then a couple of weeks or 3 weeks or whatever before the intended date of a legacies document to find out what the situation was.
I see what you're saying. You're saying
And
there
I
should be
get
more
there's
patience,
frustration.
but I think
Yeah,
that's nature of pearls a vacuum, etc. I mean, people
it
are going to
does.
fill it. People are going to fill that space with noise. Of course they are. Particularly
Yeah,
when
I
you're excited
just
about a thing.
yeah, absolutely. I get it to a point.
Mm.
Um, but the problem is it became this maelstrom, and it was there were YouTube channels and there were podcasts that fed on that, and yeah, I've heard talk of some of the WhatsApp groups of things where it's vitriol now, and it's like okay, I don't see a lot of that, but it bleeds into what I'm seeing.
Mm.
I saw there are ways to approach it. Oh, my army's not going to be usable anymore. It's like, well, chances are it will. Like there are very few armies that aren't going to be usable going forwards. And don't get me wrong, it's frustrating. I agree with that, and could have been handled better. And sometimes it's just bad luck as well that you're on
Yeah.
the end of that. And there is, you know,
Well,
there is an
I'm
inherent
still.
danger in picking a niche way of playing the game as well, whether right or wrong. But if you're playing an outlier army because of you've lent into one thing that's not extremely popular, then there is an increased chance of that happening.
I would push back on that a little over this particularly because I think there are cases here where some of these things are not what you would. I mean, how do you define what is niche in that
Oh
scenario?
yeah,
Because
I'm not talking about.
some of those things are not niche. They were perfectly
Yeah,
straightforward.
yeah, and I'm talking like there's specific examples like
Yeah,
of
yeah, I get you.
people that
Yeah,
I saw within that. That's an aspect of what's going on here.
fair point. Yeah, agree.
Um, but I just like I don't know. It's toy soldiers. It means it's a lot of time and effort that's gone into stuff. But ultimately, they say it in the book. It was put out like this is a rule set, and you can do what you want with it. And the heresy community over first edition, people were making up the panopticas, and there were house rules at lots of events. Second edition had whatever they had, they were called. I can't remember. Um, People are making up their own stuff a lot all over the shop. So even if GW give you and this happens in old world, it happens. It doesn't happen in 40k and Age of Sigmar so much because there is it's a different relationship with the game and the players. But if you look more towards Necromunda and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, there's so much like Blood Bowl, like the way people do different things. Like yes, GW are giving you a game, but you can change it. And then there were some people. There was, I think, Miles reposted something actually. Miles, Little Legend, of someone who's like, "Why don't we treat this more as a historical game?" And yeah, I play first edition and second edition and third
Yes.
edition. And a fair play. I'm not going to do that because if I go to the club, chances are people are going to play third edition. If someone's new, the chances are they're going to play third edition. But yeah, cool. Go and play first edition. In fact, there's a couple of people at the club who never started second edition, and I've stated that I didn't actually gel with second edition that much, and it took me a while to realise that it was okay, but what have you. I do think there are, and we'll see with the legacies, but I I think we talked about like let's take Tartarus and Cataphracto. The weapons options are one of the few things that differentiates those two units. And reading the book without any input, it felt like they were designed to do different things. And it feels like if you're taking, I don't know, name a type of squad that they're designed, assault squads are designed to do assault, and therefore they are going to do it in a way. And there's not going to be another unit that comes and takes their thunder unless it's better or specific or what have you. And support squads are going to be support squads, and seekers are going to be seekers, and that the units are going to have their feel. It felt like that was an attempt when we talk about characters, like we've got to hold our hands up on the champion. Oh, no, sorry, on the chaplain a little bit. They've taken away some rules, but they've given him a high call and what have you. So actually, he's going to keep his dudes around more, which is what chaplains used to did in the legions. So I get that. So each of your characters is going to have a reason to take them apart from that one special. There's a reason to take everything. And I fear that with the legacies, if they change things and they put fists back on Tartarus and blah, 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 we're just going to get back to a point where, oh, well, we'll take whatever because it can do all the different roles. And then this unit's, you never take the unit that should be taken to do that role because actually this unit does it better. And I feel that it felt to me, and this is all feeling, I don't know any of this, it felt to me that this edition was a bit of a great reset. It was what was the Warhammer one? What did they call it? Ravening Hordes, where they've pulled back on a load of the special stuff. Is it a bit blander? That's the word people are talking. Yeah, there is less character within the rules at the moment.
Chaplin specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like the way it affects the way it is a chaplain feels very bland. However, it's a strong basis of a game. And that's the other thing. I've said the game there. The game and the units and the armies are different things, and the game was getting a lot of flack for the armies,
Which I
and
think,
they are.
I think that's I think that's bang on. I think it's a very succinct way of something that's bang on. Everything I was getting was that the game was excellent. The game had moved on in a good way. The armies were dragging it down.
Yeah, and it feels like that's coming through. Not everyone's going to like the game, but it feels like more and more
No,
people are saying,
no, I
actually, I
agree with that.
really like the game. I like the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are aspects of it that, we'll have to wait and see. But in general, the game's cool.
There's always going to be something, but there's more positives
Yeah,
than negatives, etc.
and but the army lists feel blander, feel less characterful, blah blah blah. But as I say, it looks to me like it's a great reset. It's like
Yeah,
cool, right? Second edition was crazy with all the stuff. Let's pull it all back. Let's pull it all back, and then let's build.
yeah.
And and if you're doing that, you are going to lose things, but you can see them bringing them back. Like in the future, I can see them bringing them back. I was hoping that the guy in the first book was going to allow you
Yeah,
to
drop
deep
descent,
strike.
resist, master of descent. Agree with
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
it's not quite that, but I almost guarantee that at some point someone will allow a greater feel of that. There'll be something that comes out because they can monitor this, and they can see what people want. And as they go through, you know, yeah, okay, you can't take like all the bikes and whatever. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the first White Scar book comes out and has a detachment that allows you to take White Scar
doesn't that
bikes,
isn't everything with isn't what we're
or
the train of thought that you're on at the moment? That
not even just a White
I
Scar one.
think I
Sorry.
think that comes to back to that point, as it often does, comes back to that point about communication. I agree with you. There's one that is a personal bugbear of mine. I've said it before. I think it was a couple of episodes ago. I'm astounded and slightly irrationally annoyed that there isn't a way to take a drop pod army
Yeah,
currently because that limit of one thing deep striking. That's quite apart from probably my favourite legion, if you put it that way. I'm not sure that's quite true, but always been a Blood Angel fan. That's a slightly harder type of thing to do now, based on a very specific type of play with them. Okay, fine. That was a specific way of playing them. I drop army, guys coming in, jump packs, and otherwise multiple things drop podding,
not just
or
them.
deep striding and whatever. Not just them, but it was one of their things. Their
Yeah,
right of war lent that way. But quite apart from them, drop pods, the termite assault currently isn't functional at all. And as you say, you sort of think, okay, that's cool. It seems logical that they would do that, but why am I having to speculate? Why am I having to hope?
yeah.
You could just put a tease in. That would
I
be enough to
I
say, "Hey, drop pod guys, don't worry about it." They even said somewhere, they even said in one of the articles, which I think was alluding to the fact that they were going to release the old in inverted commas drop pod kit as a standalone kit. They said, "Oh, and drop pods will feature heavily," or something like that. It was a
sure.
throwaway line. But at the moment, that feels like not disingenuous, but it doesn't feel right. All it needs is a simple thing to say, "Hey, and don't worry, guys, something's coming." Now that
Yeah,
might generate a bit
oh
of,
for
"Whoa,
sure.
well, why isn't it here now?"
We've
But he'd still just allay that slight niggling fear, niggling thing of like, "I've got an army here with 12 drop pods.
yeah.
What?"
Before I sell them all.
Well,
Before
yeah. Well, before I just have to get a bit annoyed that they're all sat in a
I've
box.
been called a shield a number of times, but I think we've
And will again.
constantly stated that the communication from GW is lacking as one of their biggest
Yeah,
things. There's a disconnect between um, the community. Yeah, there's a disconnect between Warcom, SDS, and us.
yeah, yeah.
You know, but
I-
yeah,
I'm itching
you're
to ask
right.
that question. I'm itching to ask that question of someone, and I actually can't think of a channel or route where I could ask that question.
No,
I mean, what am I going to do? Go back to the 90s where you're ringing up the mail order guys and asking them a rules question? Obviously not. I mean, asking anyone there, even if
that
you
was
sent
pointless
them,
anyway.
yeah, well, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Back in the day,
It was just an opinion.
just
Um,
wait 10 minutes, we get a different
yeah,
answer.
yeah, exactly. But anyone you ask, if you sent it in or otherwise to they put it on the socials, they'd say, well, as soon as we know an answer, we'll let you know, and just follow on the Warcom articles because you'll be the first to know. Yeah, okay, that's a nothing answer, isn't it? It's where you're screaming for one of those open days or something like that, where you could talk to the developers and they'd say, yeah, you'd give you the wink and the nod and say like, don't worry, we got that covered, or in a seminar or something in one of those. But that's
Yeah,
not going to happen now. Those
it's
don't
re-
exist. So even that route is gone. You're like,
it's
well,
really interesting because we know that staff are around in all the, whatever the game system, we know staff are in the communities. We know they're looking at this stuff. We know they read all the, they see all the stuff that comes
yeah,
in. They talk in their end of year accounts statement. You know, the big thing is their relationship with their customers. We know, like, I think they state something along the lines of, we don't need to wait for our sales to know when we've done something right or something wrong.
interesting.
Like it's very clear. Like they obviously monitor the feedback they're getting on these things, which is why you don't need to scream and yell blue murder into the void. You just need to be upfront and straightforward and ask questions. It gets through, um, and yet so they know that that's a thing, and yet they don't always kind of nail it. It's a strange one, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It
Yeah,
was interesting the strength of reaction, and I also quite enjoyed a number of people who were big enough to who came out and said, "Oh, I got that wrong. Yeah, I overreacted there,"
yeah.
and publicly did so. And people don't have to do that, do they?
No, it's good that they did it. I think there are certain people that, like, if they'd taken 10 seconds to just breathe before they did it, they would have,
Yeah.
like, you can put an apology out, but it's still too late. You've affected people within that. And I think there are some people who whether they just wanted the clicks, whether they wanted to jump on it before they'd had time to
I don't
digest
know.
it
I don't know.
properly. Who knows? I mean, there's lots of different people. There's lots of different reasons for what they did. But I don't. There are certain
I didn't
things I
get that
avoided
impression.
at the
I didn't
time.
get that impression with most of that community. I don't think there's actually that many people in that community, in our community, that are in that would be in quite that bracket. I think it's
What
fairly obvious
going
when
for
people are.
clicks? I don't know.
Not to the degree that I would think is worse with some others. Anyway.
No, I think there's more. There's definitely a goal to be first to do something to get that
Maybe.
video out or whatever. Like we discovered this and it's terrible. Um, you know, to take that because that gets you views, that gets you
Mm,
known, and I think yeah, but that's part of the nature of being on platforms. Like it works. It gets you
mm,
eyeballs. So you're incentivized to do it, whichever way that is, whether that's whatever. And I do think there were some where they were very eager to go hard with very little information.
mm.
And the problem is, it feeds the kind of people who don't need the feeding of that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about important things going, yeah, they got that wrong, but before they they could chill out a bit, but again that gets lost very quickly, or you get accused of being a shill, or what have you, or defending a multi-million pound corporation, or gaslighting the community.
Bonkers. But
It,
anyway, yeah.
it's crazy, and my hope is that we learn to regulate a little bit better. I
Mm,
don't expect it to happen that much, but my hope is also the GW improve. Like
mm,
but
mm,
we've been here a long time, and they are, as I say, they're a company which is made up of lots of different parts. Specialty design studios are not the ones who are like, oh yeah, we better not make that because they'll use it in 40K. That's come from a department, and then there's another department who are like, well, this and this and this, and that's their job. So they're not bad guys either. Like,
mm, mm,
if you want to go for it, the bad guy is our aim is to make lots of money for our shareholders, but that's how again, like the system might be flawed. But as you go down, like there aren't evil people in GW at any level going, yeah, we're going to screw them over here. Even at upper management, it's not what it is. It's like, I need your department to do X. Cool. Oh, we're going to do it by doing this. Okay, fine, excellent. And multiple things happen in that end up with the product we get in the way we get it.
Mm.
And having to go at people within GW doesn't necessarily achieve anything positive. We only
Really?
have to look at a few people who've left GW because of
Yeah, I was going to say.
the grief that's come their way, and I've seen many people leave social media platforms because of the tangential flack they're getting. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on from all that. We're going to talk legacies. We're going to have a little look through and maybe pick out some of our fun things we like. We did have a preview, the
We
big
did.
summer preview, pulled aside from any big show.
Mm.
Like Nova's coming up. They haven't got one at Nova. They've got that pre-event meet-up thing again. So it looks like they're changing the way they do things at GW, which I think might be a positive. And it was packed. Chaos Dwarfs. Oh yeah, all that. Brilliant. Awesome.
Yeah, they did. They
Oh,
nailed it with that. I think. Not
yeah, the
being a
Chaos Dwarfs are so
not being a general fantasy guy, but with those sorts of things, or square based nonsense as they used to call it. But
I thought the whole
they
preview was
nailed that.
really good,
Yeah, I
actually.
agree with that. I
So
agree.
good.
They're all there.
Uh,
There seems to be good. They're hitting it pretty well with those previews. I think that's been quite a
and
few on the trot now.
I think it's because they're not trying to do one every month or one every
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do we get for Heresy? We got Assault Marines.
I'm
You've
amazed
seen
they
them.
came that early. I thought that we were going to have to wait a
Well,
hell of a long time for those.
yeah, I mean they're showing them off in all their glory,
Mm.
which is cool. Obviously, we knew they were coming, but they are fantastic. What really surprised me was the announcement of the Forges of Saturn straight away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm thinking about buying a ring-bound folder, something like that, and
Mm.
getting
Mm.
all these put into something. Maybe pulling out all the missions into one, something like that, and then all the lore into one. Um, don't know. Maybe we'll have to have a look because what was it? What was the price of the other one? Element was that £14.50
14.
or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
14 quid.
14-ish.
Yeah.
Like, cool. I don't mind spending money at GW to support the game because that's how the game continues to get made. Like
Mm.
you can rage at GW, oh, let's not give them any money, but please, we want more better rules. Like, it doesn't work. I like this system. I think it's a bit more flexible
Mm.
for them. Yeah, we'll see in 2-3 years' time how I feel about that. But you don't have to buy everyone, particularly if your legions aren't in there, that kind of thing. But what they got? Saturnine Command Squad, Centurion in Saturnine armor, and then the Warbearers get a Freightus Anointed Conclave, and an Arcana upgrade for Thousand Suns, as well as 2 new Legions started detachments. Again, if all you want is those detachments, you're not a fan of Saturnine armor, then guess what? You'll be able to find out what they are. It won't, yeah, it'll be fine. But yeah, I like the idea of that. It looks super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a nice touch, and it just sort of gives an indicator that it is going to come quite rapidly. You're not waiting a long round for these
It
things.
it also stops though. In first edition, it was a year to a year and a half wait between books,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, what have we got? Anything coming? In second edition, it was like, oh, are we getting anything this week? Oh no, it's been 2 or 3 weeks without anything. We have to wait a few months. This means that the you feel more supported,
Yeah.
and you feel like they're not just pushing you aside, which is probably a good idea for the game. Legions Imperialis. They got another book
Got quite a
announced.
lot as well. There's quite a lot of stuff with the Legions
It
Imperial.
is.
I didn't expect it to be that big.
No, no, I was a bit surprised. Although I, I sort of, I've talked about this, that it feels like some of the games that come out, especially design studios, need a clean up fairly shortly after they come out.
Mm.
And this is a bit of a clean up on a
It's
little
weird.
bit like the way
It's
the
sort of
AT did.
it's sort of odd that it's a agreed, and obviously ATs came a lot longer after its release than
Yeah,
comparatively to Legions Imperialis. It's interesting, and it was particularly true of Legions Imperialis, which felt like it did come in. It was quite. There was only so much in the rule book.
yeah,
You couldn't. The game was pretty limited until you got those expansions because you got so many units and formations being introduced, and of particular types as well, being introduced in the later books. So this actually makes a lot of sense,
mm,
coming together and being, and it is going to be useful on that basis. It'd be very interesting to see what's in it, because obviously they
yeah,
don't really tell
for
you
sure.
all of that.
No,
But just as a compilation, it's particularly useful, whereas that was across multiple books before.
yeah, and it's one of those things because it's like outdated rules and stuff like that. How does it say how big it is?
Yeah, 240 page.
240 page supplement. There's going to be a lot of stuff in there. So updates, supersedes, previous army lists for Astartes Auxilia. So a lot of this is going to be, quote unquote, old stuff. So
Mm.
you have to be aware of that. If it's a clean up, then it's worth it, but it might not provide. Um, it might not blow your socks off.
Mm.
Right? There'll be parts of it that won't feel new. That's the only problem when you get like an upgraded version. You can look through things and go, oh yeah, cool, they've tidied that up, brilliant. Um, which doesn't overly excite, but new formations and yeah, good stuff. But and then along with that, we're getting Mastodons, baby.
Yeah, they are pretty sweet, aren't they?
They're so cool. Mastodons. I mean,
And this game lends itself to what the Mastodon actually
oh,
is.
for sure. So for those who aren't aware, who don't, Mastodons, oh, because we didn't see any in second, didn't see many in first edition. Not only could they deliver like 50 Marines, you could take dreadnoughts in them, so you could have three or four. They can take multiple units in. Yeah, obviously that's less relevant in LI because you're buying the big squads. But one of the big key factors is when you kill them, they don't necessarily die; they become terrain pieces. And I wonder how
Mm.
they protect what's inside them, to the point where in the old game they would then become a piece of terrain that you can move through effectively into and out of.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that's reflected within the game because then that adds something to them. Like if it's a safe way of taking troops up, assault troops up the board, or for dreadnought stands or something like that, um, then that could be really cool. I
Love it
like
if that was the
them.
case. I suspect it won't be, but I'd love it if it was.
Well, they've got to do something, haven't they?
Mm.
Well, maybe they don't actually. Tell a lie. Maybe they don't.
I think the abstraction of Legions might uh,
Might swallow it up.
struggle to do that rather
At
cool
least,
idea, but
at
that's
least if
not
you
to
can put,
say a fan rule couldn't exist.
yeah, at least if you can put dreadnoughts in them to get them closer, that'd
Well,
be
that
pretty
I think is
awesome.
quite likely. I think that's
Yeah, absolutely.
entirely feasible. And the
Whirlwinds,
first look of an actual whirlwind.
yeah, super cool.
Mm. Very
Super
old
cool.
school. Very old
It
school. I
is,
love it.
isn't it?
Yeah.
They
Sticking
got,
that alongside. Yeah. Do you think we'll see one in 28 mil?
oh yeah, well, yeah, and in the end, yeah.
Mm.
However they do it,
Mm.
we'll get one. That's what GW do, right? Well, maybe. I mean, maybe. I'm sure whether it becomes one of those true legends type things, where it's okay. Yeah, we are going to bring you this, but we're not actually ever going to release a model for it because you have rapier tarantulas that you could borrow stuff off and put them on rhinos. So it will always be a legacies unit
Mm.
because of that nature. Fine, cool. You know, it's of all the of all the kind of mainline frontline games that GW make, Heresy supports that more than any other.
It'll be interesting to see if it does fulfill the artillery section as well. I mean, there's the Arquiter is the
Yes.
symbol of the unit type, but I would have thought there's a candidate here for the whirlwind. And similarly, its description is quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's saying that the whirlwinds are superb saturation fire, especially on units garrisoning structures, which is quite interesting. Whereas the Scorpius is more powerful ordnance designed for armored units. So, yeah, cool that they differentiate.
Absolutely. And then, Vindicators, baby.
Yeah.
Vindicators are cool. It's going to be interesting to see how well they work because I can't imagine they're going to have a lot of range.
No, but quite
So,
cool having these little diddy tanks like
yeah.
absolutely bombing across to do their job. I
You,
think it'd be fun.
and I'm fairly sure you won't want them to get in range. So,
No.
maybe it's one of those mini distraction kind of X's. And then the Cerberus and the Typhon. And yeah, they're cool kits.
Both of
Titans.
them look great. Both of them
Yeah.
look great. The Typhon particularly, but I think both of them are cool. I think the Cerberus is going to start to have a bit of a unique, no, not unique, but a pretty cool function. I still think it's slightly odd that the Spartan is not a super heavy, but these are. I suppose that differential doesn't make such a big deal in legions, really. Especially,
Yeah.
super heavy doesn't really mean a great deal other than sort of scale, I suppose. But even then, I don't think it's a big deal. Anyway, they look cool, super cool.
Yeah, as you say, just let's get all the range done, and then they can look at whatever they need to, the craziest stuff that has appeared, as far as I'm concerned, and data sheets and objective markers, which is cool.
Or more than
If you don't want
objective
to 3D
markers,
print order tokens as well.
the
Sorry,
order tokens are
apologies.
far
That's what
more
I meant.
useful than the yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a
Those are
lot of them as well.
genuinely useful because the ones that come, the paper ones are rubbish.
Yeah,
But it's just nice that they've got their own rather than having to go third party or otherwise.
yeah, and it's a lot, so you're gonna
Yes.
be all right. Well, that's cool.
It's a cool little set of releases. A little surprised, pretty surprised that am I? I don't know. That the Legion super heavies weren't in there. Weren't previewed because they've previewed the Fellblade for Big
Yeah,
Heresy. I'm surprised that at least the Fellblade didn't get previewed here or even hinted at. But they could obviously be waiting
in the
until that's
next
actually
wave.
released.
Yeah,
And we'll wait until it's released in big scale and then talk about it. But I mean, that's this game obviously crying out for the
sure.
Fellblade, Falcon, and Glaive.
Absolutely. And then, like, the biggest surprise of something that possibly was the most sure thing ever, Ashes of the Imperium, The Scouring
Oh
by
yes,
Chris Wright. So we've talked about that big void of Black Library over the last few years, and this seems to be what's going to fill it. So we've
yeah.
got a major multi-book, multi-author series coming soon from Black Library. It's
That was
Scouring.
probably the biggest surprise to me of the whole show, I would say.
Yes, possibly. We
Because I
sort of
just didn't
knew
expect it.
Castles was coming. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I heard a few bits about the Scouring as a series,
Mm.
but it was like, okay, yeah, they're going to do it. Is it going to come? Like, what's going on? Oh, there he is, and it came kind of out of the blue. Although it was the most logical thing and everything else, it was like, oh wow, they've announced it. So, yeah, I wonder, are the lessons learned from all the different series now that they've done, multi-book, multi-author series? Scouring takes a long time. I'm trying to think. There's a decent amount of stories to be told. I haven't kind of gone through and looked at it. I think it will be fairly well focused on what they want, but my hope is that the pre-planning is fairly kind of set so that there's not a huge amount of shifting around as they go. Because I think that really makes a book series live or die. Like, I think War of the Beast struggled. They got confused with Heresy about meandering and then going almost too tight, I think, in response to it.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to it. It's Chris Wright. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, this opener
So,
looks really interesting. I mean, that cover alone is looking
yeah.
really cool. It's like one of the better ones, I think.
What are you most looking forward to in the whole series of the Scouring? What aspect?
Oh goodness. I think this immediate bit actually was quite cool. I mean, it's tempting to say one of those battles that is described as sort of scouring era, things like Iron Cage and stuff. That's sort of tempting, and arguably as the Dark Angels get returned to Caliban and stuff, whether that counts, but that's tempting. But I think this immediate fallout and the sort of sundering of the legions is kind of appealing, or whether that's the foundations of that, even if it isn't that itself. The sort of
I,
politics almost of the fallout, I think, could be quite
well,
interesting.
I think that's it, right? Like, fights are fights, but the real thing that joins these things together is the politic, is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
relationships. How long are Dawn and Guilliman going to be, you know, uh, kind of trying to avoid a civil war
yeah,
occurring? Um, and other legions like the Space Wolves, like not particularly happy with that kind
yeah,
of thing as well. And the follow up to the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves being a little bit kind of dark about not being able to get back in time.
yeah.
Um, Sanguinius,
Accusations, yeah, that's suddenly
yeah,
the wounds
uh,
that are all there, yeah,
absolutely, and let's say lots of other aspects of it as well. And then the traitors, like, are they going to be interacting with each other a huge amount?
yeah.
Um, Sigismund going on his purge, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a real interesting one. Cool. Yeah, really good preview show. Looking forward to the next one, whenever that may be. Because as I say,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like there's one at Nova, so which as I say is a good thing. Maybe it will be waiting till Warhammer Day.
When is
Who
Warhammer Day?
knows? Is it October or November? Early November.
No idea.
It's around that. They it's around that time. It's
Okay.
around that
Okay,
time.
fair enough. Yeah.
So it'll be August,
Autumn,
September, October,
autumn,
November.
winter. Yeah, autumn, winter
Yeah,
season,
it'll be
not
4
summer.
months. The last one was March,
Mm.
so 4 months. Yeah, fits like for a big one. I'm sure there'll be other little things that happen, but all good. Right, moving on. It's a new I've got to go to Nottingham and look at the new diorama.
Oh yes, yeah, that was that. And there's a giant making of video coming as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I don't know how
It
big it
does.
is, but it's big.
It looks huge. I mean, and richly detailed, to say the least.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, super cool. So if you're heading up to Nottingham, make sure you get into the displays to see that.
It does remind you that it is always worth going and checking out the exhibition hall when one is up there semi infrequently.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like if you go a few times a year, then maybe you're not getting quite so much out of it. But
Yeah,
certainly once or twice a year, I'd go in if I had the
yeah.
time. For a faux shizzle, we got some talons and stuff, but let's talk about that later. Because again, we don't have the full view on this. We don't know the sisters have only got 4 units or whatever it is. I'm sure there'll be some more. Why am I sure there'll be some more? Hopeful there'll be some more. Because they do have, I don't know if they still sell the pistol sets, things like that. Anyway, and then we are getting, like, I wonder if the follow-up release of the Saturnine sets and the drop pods included,
Mm.
an interesting one. Has this been changed? Has this been? I'm trying to remember with the last. What did they release last? Age of Sigmar. I don't think the follow-up was that quick.
I did see
Um,
someone having a look at the release speed, if you like,
mm,
of second edition, actually, of how quickly the units from the Age of Darkness box
yeah.
set was released, and it wasn't far off this. A
Oh,
lot of
fair
people seem to
enough.
be quite surprised. It's a hell of a lot closer than people think it is. When they went and looked at it, and people went, "Oh, okay, actually, that's not as different as one thought." So that may have either always
It
been the plan. If
certainly
it is
wouldn't.
changed, it's not as dramatic as it might sound.
Doesn't feel like this would have happened with 40k.
No,
So
agree with that.
that
No,
kind of thing. But and we got the other pattern of dreadnought. So they're doing the one where you get two weapons in one, two weapons in the other. I'm not bothered about that. Like, cool.
and crucially, the separate frame that you can
And a
order.
separate frame. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Even without that, it's like, okay, I want one of these, and Do you want to swap? Like there's an element of that
yeah.
as well.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm cool with that. I might buy the Saturn Praetor and either repose that leg or swap some bits with another Saturn dude. But yeah, cool. I just feel like we're there's here is where it will end map. There we go for End of Death Volume 3, if that is your thing.
Which I only
Um,
remembered as at time of recording. I only remembered that is imminent. Yeah, just late at night. So yeah, I need to set an alarm to make sure I don't get distracted by
miss
something
out
else
on
when
that
that
one.
happens. That
Yeah,
would
for
be
sure.
annoying. I also quite like the new dice.
Yeah,
Um,
they're cool on there.
being a Sons of Horus player and having some Sons of Horus dice, I thought those would look quite nice. The black and the green all mixed in together.
We haven't had the limited edition Era of Ruin go back up yet, have we?
No, 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 we haven't.
No,
And I think when they
no,
do, that's going to be obviously quite. I think when they do whatever announcement about how they're going to deal with that, that's going to be probably they'll announce something that's going to be quite a way in advance. I think. I don't think it'll be. Oh, and by the way, it's available next week.
no,
I think it'll
no.
be. This is what we're planning to do. This is how it will be going available in
Yeah, a
a month's time or
registering
two
test
months'
or
time.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, whatever that ends up being. Yeah. Um, but it took them a long time to decide what to do when they had a similar scenario with End of the Death 3.
Did they talk about limited editions for?
No,
No, they didn't. I wonder if it'll be in a
for
similar
scouring.
style to
To
the
let you finish
Heresy.
that, but yeah, no, they
Yeah,
didn't.
I wonder if who knows? Who knows?
I
Um,
would
I-
assume I would assume they
not
won't be doing them siege style
no.
unless the scouring has been predetermined to be somewhere in the region of 8 to 12 books. I think unless
Feels
it's
like there's
limited to
more
that,
to
and I
tell than
doubt it.
that.
Exactly. I doubt they'll have limited themselves to that. So I doubt it will be leather bound or faux leather special editions. They might do something like the Primarchs thing, where they do a special edition,
Yes,
but
for
not
sure.
quite the siege type of scenario. I'd imagine.
Yeah. Shall we keep an eye on that as well? I think that's pretty much
Well, there was a very recent article that went up where they showed. I thought it was interesting that they did this. That they did the Saturnine Terminator construction advice,
sure.
not
Yes,
instructions. I thought that was very interesting that they released that. And having built one, I entirely see, and I think you would agree based on what
I built
I know
one.
you said about it. Yeah, it's really useful. The instructions alone, the instructions tell you how to put it together. They don't necessarily make recommendations or or make it easier. Whereas I think this guide they put on really does, and it was really handy to have to say this is how we might suggest because they've introduced so much posability in it, which is slightly you could argue is slightly curious for such a
But in a
notionally
fixed,
cumbersome. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's not a free-form ball and
No,
socket joint or anything like that.
no.
It's
Well, and something that sort of lends itself to having relatively limited range of motion.
yeah.
There's more sprightly things that you could imagine with leaping around. Sprinting Saturnine doesn't feel quite right somehow.
No, like the people who do their
Thematically,
Leviathans
yeah,
flying
leaping
across
a
tables.
wall, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no, it
It
doesn't
doesn't
feel
fit, doesn't
40k to
doesn't
me, mate.
doesn't fit my image of what that thing is. No, quite. So they've got this incredible range of posability. Very interesting that article exists, and I would recommend anyone building Saturnine to go and read that first, because I think it would really help.
Sure. Did you build the Praetor without any modifications?
I haven't built the Proto yet, because I'm partly wanting to sort of see what's coming in the next books.
Sure.
Those things I'd like to
And
see what
that's
that
a
is
fair
before I
thing. And
commit.
I think that's a legitimate thing to do. Which there are things which have affected the release of this game. I think it's going to pick up speed
Mm.
for sure. I think there's going to be kind of a jumping in once people have got all the information. Once they can start planning a bit more,
Yeah,
and then like the second wave of that will be what events are doing and what leading people within the community are doing with their like how they're playing the game and stuff. I'm still not a fan of four turns. Having played the game, like certainly things die very quickly, but four turns kind of means what comes first, the 4 turns or the fact that you can move a land raider 10 inches, get out 6 inches, shoot something, and then charge something else with a setup move and a charge. Like, the threat ranges are huge, which they need to be in a 4 turn game. But it did feel like, okay, cool, right, well, we know what's going to happen here, because it was like, well, and the addition of the fact that you have to stand on the objectives early because of the way they're scored. Yeah, it is what it is. It's not necessarily the way I favour playing the game. Curiously, listening to the independent characters, there's a real. Carl did an event at Adepticon called The Flex, which was very much about garage gaming at a con. It was like, come turn up, we'll put some missions out. We're going to use old school terrain, like not L-shaped buildings and things like that, but old terrain that GW used to sell. And we're going to have a relaxed, chilled out game. And Adam Troke actually came past at one point in that and said, "Oh, this is how we play at home." And actually, I think more and more that's the way I want to play the game. I want to use the new scenarios. One of the big changes from first edition to second edition and carried on into third edition is fair scenarios that they're very match play, and they make for a game that I don't quite know how to word it, but it's very much a game. Whereas GW are putting out scenarios in White Dwarf at the moment every month for 40k in Age of Sigmar that aren't standing up. It's not going to stand on objective A and then move to objective B and try and gain 3 objectives. It's here's the goal. There's a demon summoning ritual, whatever, and you have so many turns to do X. And that is how I used to play the game. And competitively, there are potential issues with that, and games can swing wildly, and you've got to be careful. But also, they're much more conducive to storytelling easily, I think. And then you add into that another way they were talking about. There's an event in Hawaii, the 40k tournament in Hawaii, which is a chill tournament, which is so tempting. That has this thing where they generally have, rather than win lose, it's big win, small loss, big loss, and actually you can have a big loss and the enemy can only have a small win because there are multiple objectives and they may be asymmetrical. And that aspect of scenarios appeals to me more as a event organizer than cool. We'll put these 6 tokens down and you have to stand by that one for 3 turns.
Okay.
You can make a story out of that. I'm not saying you can't, but I feel like maybe I'm moving aside from that for Heresy. It's fine, Age of Sigmar, cool. Go and control this part of the battlefield, fine. But I play that not in a tournament way, but in a match play format. I don't tend to play Heresy for the match played aspect. So that's probably my biggest gripe of the game so far. That might change.
I think
Give
that's
me more
fair.
turns.
I think that's a fair. At least it's coming from a position of having played it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if I'm using these rules, I can't change how quickly units can fly across the table. That is what it is. So you get things like, oh, maybe I just need a screening unit standing in front of my Terminators, which again kind of detracts a little bit. Like, why would Slayers be out in front of, or tactical Marines be out, whatever cheap unit you get, standing in front of the Terminators, protecting them, so I can charge you when I want to charge you. Like tactically, that's not a bad move. Realistically, that Terminators will be charging force going, I cannot be killed. Rah!
Yeah.
But yeah, challenges are fun. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Challenges are fun. But yeah, I think we've probably hit most of that. Anyway, I think we were talking about the scouring at some point.
Yeah,
But
we should.
yeah, scouring. It's going to be going to look forward to reading them
I'm
for
yeah, I'm
sure.
pleased it's come at the time it has as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's
I'm
I need
ready
to get
for it.
back onto it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of good books coming in the next 6 months actually. I'm really looking forward to some of which will be audible choices and some of which will be read.
We should have a
GW did release
conversation.
their. Sorry.
We should have a conversation about Era of Ruin at some point.
Yeah, well, I need to finish it.
Mm.
That is one thing. I say I'm on holiday, so maybe next full episode, maybe I can read that while I'm away and get that sorted because that's slipped back due to other things. Yeah, and then maybe we'll talk about bats next time and things like that.
Yes.
Bless GW. It's only a car park that the bat's stopping. I like the fact that in the thing they were like, it was a really cool bat that's causing us a problem in their report. But GW's expansion continues and they're doing well. And I know some people don't like big companies, but if you're a fan of the games that GW produce, we should be happy that GW are doing well.
Yes.
Yeah, but we should, not. And I'm not saying we should ever look past the fact that they can do some things better. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're a shareholder, I'm sure you're happy. Anyway, that is a long chat, longer than we thought.
Considerably, considering we thought that would be a light touch today.
But yeah, so after this, there is going to be an interview chat with the guys who are making the Horus Heresy RPG.
Oh, very
I will
interesting.
say, I should have put this at the front. Padraig is coming in hot. I tried to do a bit with the sound, but there's not a lot I can do. I could turn it down, but even then, it's still like there's a lot of noise on the thing. You can listen to him, but you might need to just pay a bit more attention or whatever. We did sort of fix it, and then it sneaked back in, and I don't, and we were already chatting by then. But if you are interested in the Horus Heresy RPG, there's little bits of information in there. If you're just interested in the heresy anyway, I think there's little bits in there. I'm going to get the book. There was whether they're going to send it to me or not, I don't know. And I'm hopefully going to play it with my RPG group. I haven't told them this yet, and report back on how it feels to play because it's heresy. It's fun.
I just love
So
that it
yeah,
exists. I love that it
yeah,
exists.
absolutely. And Cubicle 7 are a company that have been doing this a long time now. So yeah, we'll have a little chat with Calum and Padraig next. Awesome.
Nice.
Cheers, Howard.
Good to talk to you. Speak to you soon.
Well, joining me now, we have two people from Cubicle 7 to talk us through the exciting new roleplay. We have Padraig.
That's me. Hi, how you doing? My name's Padraig. I'm a senior producer at Cubicle 7.
Podrick. I will try and get that pronunciation a little bit smoother. And Callum.
Hi, I'm Calum Collins. I'm a producer at Cubicle 7 Games.
Hopefully, I pronounced Callum okay. So you guys, so you both work for Cubicle 7, a producer and a senior producer. What's your role with before we get into the game? Let's have a little walk around it. What's your role for Cubicle 7? What does that involve?
I can go first, Callum, if you like, I suppose.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've been with Cubicle 7 since 2019, originally as a producer and then as a senior producer. So essentially, I kind of oversee some of the game development along with Dominic McDowell, the CEO. I liaise with Games Workshop and especially their licensing department about making sure that everything feels properly Warhammer and is a good expression of the worlds that we deal in. And then, of course, we've got like a huge sort of ranch of freelancers that we work with for writing and art and editing and all sorts of other things, as well as doing quite a bit in-house ourselves. So I'm usually over a couple of projects, and I like quite like a few people working on a few different projects. One of whom is Calum.
Yes, so I'm a producer. I started out as a freelancer a couple of years ago, and eventually applied for a producer position. So I see the day-to-day making sure the books get made in terms of hiring freelancers, artists, writers, doing a bit of writing myself, a little bit of game design with an RPG design as well, writing briefs, just making sure that the stuff people enjoy get made, which is quite exciting to get to be able to do.
Sure, and having to filling holes as required as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, excellent. So obviously Cubicle 7 have got quite a decent history now with working with GW, and
Yeah, we've been really, really lucky in that regard. We have quite a few Warhammer role-playing games and a couple of card games out or in the works as well, so we're delighted.
Yeah, and well, I mean, they're obviously successful as well, so it's not just luck. There's some competence going on there as well.
I will always come into work feeling lucky, even sometimes on Monday mornings. So.
Sure, that's always a good sign. So obviously, a relationship builds there with you and GW. How do we get to Horus Heresy, the role-playing game? Of all the GW kind of game systems, it's maybe the one that I would put near the bottom of like what I would think would get made.
Well, I mean, there's sort of two answers to that, and one is we've made a few of the other ones, so I suppose it wasn't our first port of call either, but it wasn't for lack of desire to make it. And I think that like we have a sort of a vision for the game that I think is going to work really quite well. Like there's a lot of stories to be told within the sort of setting of the heresy. I think as like Black Library is shown and a lot of other things will show and come to show as well. So it's probably a bit more military focused than a lot of role playing games might be by default. I think that's why some people might not necessarily see the game there straight away. But it's also this sort of story of like betrayal and brother versus brother and these sort of legions of space marines igniting like a civil war that all but destroys the Imperium. Like the Imperium survives it, but I think the dream of the Imperium doesn't. And I think there's loads of room for really exciting narratives within that, and I think people will really enjoy role playing in it. So yeah, I mean that's we know we only wanted to make one for a while, and it was sort of getting the opportunity and the right people in the right place at the right time, and sort of like making a pitch to Games Workshop that they felt like, yeah, this is going to work. So yeah, that's a bit of the thinking.
The feeling, the thing that you mentioned earlier about it's one of those that you didn't expect. Even when I first heard we were doing the project, I was like, how does that work? And then we started building on it, and it was just so exciting to see. Oh right, you can tell some really cool stories for players to experience in that setting.
Awesome. And do you two, or, within the group working on this, how much experience was there with a heresy setting in itself?
Well, I've been a big 40k fan for a long time, so I started playing Warhammer 40k with second edition.
Old school.
Sometime in the 90s, and I'm not willing to say when, but I'm sure it could be worked out. So that was a lot of fun, and the heresy. I don't need to tell you anything about it, but I guess I need to talk a bit about myself, right? Like the heresy at that time was part of the mythic history of the setting. It was this thing that had happened. And was very much like in the backdrop as this sort of setup really for the game of Warhammer 40,000. And that was my first experience of it was just like that. Like a lot of us, it was that sort of history. And then they started to explore it through, from like the Black Library novels, I think are probably my favorite expression of the Horus Heresy. I play Legions Imperialis. I don't play much Horus Heresy. I've on the tabletop. I enjoy the books quite a bit. Legions is my game, though. So the thing that I got into most, I mean, I picked up the first Dan Abnett novel and I couldn't put it down. I own it in paperback, hardback, and my most listened to format is an audiobook. and it was just fabulous. And I have friends who I've shared that with as a sort of an entry point to Warhammer, not just the Heresy, but Warhammer generally, who don't really, they're not into any other part of Warhammer, but they read Horus Rising. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I hope things really work out for this Horus fellow. Seems like a lot of plate. And, yeah, it's such a compelling part of the setting. So I admit that I haven't been as into it as I am into Warhammer Fantasy and into Warhammer 40k, but I've been getting more into it through this process, and I've been really enjoying Legions Imperialis as well. And we knew we wanted to get people on board with it who had a really deep background, so we were very lucky that John French could join us for some of the development, and is still sort of writing these amazing documents for us, talking about like the differences in the depictions of Space Marines in this era versus how they'll be in 40k, and reviewing text for everything. So it's been amazing having such a sort of storied Black Library author and role-playing game developer sort of like working with us as well. So that's also been part of the joy of this game for me so far.
How about yourself, Calum?
So I like Padraig. I started out as a big old 40k fan when I was a kid. I was a 4th edition kid, and that was just when the new Chaos Space Marines Codex came out. Is the one I always remember I had as a kid, and it was always who's Abaddon? Why is this dude such a big deal? And then around that time, the Black Light, like Padraig was saying, the Black Library novels came out, and I didn't get on those until years and years later. It was really weird because I stayed on 40k for a very long time. And about 4 years ago, I jumped onto Horus Rising, and then the first trilogy, Flight of the Eyes of Stein, Fulgrim, and then I've kind of hopped around the timeline to stuff that I'm interested in. And
Sure.
that's what I really like about those books, is that if you're not into all of it, you can just choose the bits that you do like, or the characters that you're most interested in. I will forever say that Angron just needs a hug. He just needs a hug, man. It's so bad.
He needs something.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be my first choice, but
but then so I've read probably about 10, 15 of the books, and then I got brought onto this project, and it was just you're in deep at the research end. So when I'm sitting in front of the timeline trying to figure out where everything's happening, so I can write my intro properly and the lore happens where it should, you just kept digging and digging and digging and finding more. And it's a mythic quality to it. It's very much a sort of an epic in terms of it's these outsized characters that just hold such fascination for people because they're all, their motivations are so almost like Greek gods almost.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's good to know. I didn't know that John was involved. Friend of the show, Mr. John French. I didn't know John was involved, but he's got a pedigree in role playing. And as far as knowledge of how 40k and Heresy works, there aren't many better. So that's really awesome.
Invaluable, absolutely, and also lovely.
He's a lovely bloke. But the other thing is just how on it he is in terms of here's how the 40k setting and the Heresy setting differ in some fundamental ways, and you can't get better than that. He'll point out things you never even think of.
Excellent. Well, something else I need to message him actually to get him back on the show and have a chat. So it's something else to question him about, which is awesome. So as we've as you said, Heresy is this civil war. There are essentially two sides going on. There are some grey areas in that, but people outside looking in, it's two sides. It's 7.5 years ish, and it's a war, a galactic civil war that is all encompassing. You saying you found that space in there to make a role playing game. A lot of people, I think, are like, how do you do that? Where it's not just running around like 2 9-year-olds playing D&D back in the day like I was, where it's all about running around hitting people.
Well, first off, if that's your preferred way to play, that's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say it's probably not Cubicle 7's first port of call. Like we really value narrative, essentially. That's what we try to weave into all our games, and it's when we're developing tools for GMs. That's we're a lot more interested in tools for GMs that help them tell a good story than help them perfectly balance a combat encounter,
sure.
For example. The place we've really... So I think the first decision that we kind of made that helped a lot with this was where to set it. And the second decision that we made that I think, or when to set it, I should say, And the second decision I think we made was to focus on troop play as opposed to sort of individual characters. So to kind of speak to that, you begin in this game in the opening shots of the Horus Heresy. You just found out about the War Master's betrayal. The default setting assumes that you're caught like pretty flat-footed by this, that you're going to have to, you're probably behind traitor lines somewhere, and you're going to have to get back to loyalist lines. So we are focusing on the loyalist experience of the game. We will hope to support the other side, and I won't say whether it's right or wrong, but we all know. And the other side of the Horus Heresy and be servants of the War Master. But the initial sort of experience is as loyalists trying to fight back, get back to friendly lines. And what we've done is you've got a Space Marine character who is a sort of console level character, so kind of Armistice or Master Signals or something like that. And you are quite high up in your war fleet. So you were someone who was, involved in the Great Crusade, bringing worlds to compliance, building the Imperium and spreading the light of the Emperor and the Imperial truth. And then you get caught up by this. And so I think one thing that separates it from some of our other games is you're immediately someone very important. Between the players at the table, they will be deciding what this war fleet does and where it goes, how it deals with things. So you've immediately got like void ships at your disposal. You've got other troops at your disposal. So that opens up a lot of room for being like quite big decision-making moments, I think. And because it's early doors, really, the Heresy, not everybody knows who you can trust in the sort of initial wave of what's going on. Nobody knows exactly which legions may have turned traitor or not. You, the players, may know, but there's loads of room for sort of subverting those expectations as well, because we know we've had loyalists from lots of traitor chapters, and something that we're really excited to look at as well is there were traitors in loyalist chapters. They don't get talked about a lot in some cases, but they were there as well, and there's a lot of room for role play and drama around that. As you come to a world, the governor, demanding supplies you need for your fleet. The governor in that world has heard missives through their astropaths that things are maybe not, something is happening. They need to keep what supplies they have, but Space Marine Legion is demanding resupply, and maybe they want something done for them in return to hand over that supplies. Maybe they just want you to stay and help defend their world, but look, there's a fairly substantial Sons of Horus fleet after us. We need to get out of here. We can't stay. This world is lost, and it's just a matter of what drama we have here before we leave, because we are going to have to leave these people. And so there's a lot of room for role playing in that, and for kind of having those moments of who can we trust, how far can we trust them. A lot of grey areas, I think, as well. In that, you've got people who are nominally loyalists but possibly just don't want to see their world burn to ash, which, so they may be more accommodating of the War Master's forces than they should otherwise be if they're going to be, properly loyal subjects of the Imperium. So I think there's a lot of room for role play around that. And then something else that we've added that we were really excited about is the idea of troop play. So you make two characters at the start of this game. One is your Space Marine consul, who's a powerful Space Marine, and the second one is a mortal character. And your mortal could be like a remembrancer, they could be a ship's captain or officer, they could be the leader of some Solar Auxilia troops, and they are a very different experience, and you can sort of swap between those characters as the scenes demand. Because Space Marines, for all that they're good at, they're often very bad at dealing with mortals in a way that isn't just intimidating them in most cases. If you need a softer touch, you might like to deploy your sort of mortal character and see what you can talk yourself into. How far can words get you before bolts need to start flying. So you've got a lot of room for stories in that, and you've got room for stories to be told sort of like inside the fleet. A void ship's a very big thing. What's going on in it? We have some nice events tables for how morale is holding up with the ship, what people are saying, if anyone is building shrines to the Emperor as a god in the lower decks that you should be aware of. Lots of moments for storytelling that I think will reflect some of like really compelling and lovely bits from the Black Library novels, which are a very big influence on us and on the design of the
There's
game.
a scope thing in there of the fact that with the consoles and the Space Marines, you get that kind of epic story. It's father against son, it's demigod against god. And then on the flip side with the troop play, you can then undertake the role of a mortal, because when you think about it, the Heresy is it's a battle for just humanity's soul, and so being able to experience it from these quite fragile humans is a really cool thing, because all of a sudden you have that power fantasy of the Space Marine, and then it gets pulled out from under you, and you have to then feel your way through this conflict, which is a really, really cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I suppose that, like, even as a veteran fan of the Heresy, as I say, even before it was in Sabretooth's game, we used to sit around at GW and talk about the myth stories from the Heresy. You forget that they're flying on ships that are 7,000 kilometers long. Sorry, 7 kilometers long, and essentially are mini cities within themselves. So just kind of as you're talking, it's like, oh, there's a lot more going on just on a ship traveling through the warp than you recall, because of the external stuff that's going on pushes that to the side sometimes.
Yeah, like crews of thousands. If you don't automate things, you end up with a lot of people usually.
Yes, absolutely. And as you say, like, building shrines to the Emperor, shrines to other people, who knows what's going on
Yeah.
in the depths. Cool. So within that, like, as you're trying to develop a game system, does that kind of restriction, does it drive how you're then writing your background, your storytelling and everything else, or does it, or can those restrictions kind of make you think, have to think harder, and therefore create things? Do you understand what I'm saying? Does the question make sense? It's not a very eloquently put question.
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at, though. Calum, you go ahead. I talk too much.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say that the restrictions are part of the creative process, and by having these restrictions in place, it forces us to think about what kind of stories we want to tell, what stories we can tell. So, the standard, the adventurers walk into a tavern. We can't do it because there's no peace here. There's a massive war on. And so we have to start thinking about how, every adventure can't be you answer a distress beacon from an ex-Legion ship. It has to be, we have to find new and inventive ways to sort of kickstart those adventures. So we've got, as Padraig was saying earlier, we've got tables about shipboard rumors. We've got about emergence crises. So, you emerge from the warp and X happens. The restrictions are part of the fun, and finding ways to work with them is a really creative process.
Yeah, I think anyone who's sat down and wanted to write something, and if they've been told or they've thought you can do anything, there's no restrictions, there's no guidance, do whatever you like. You've got this huge design space. That can be more challenging than being told you've got 500 words and you need to talk about how a Space Marine Council might deal with a planetary governor who doesn't give them what they want straight away. You've got that one of those. The second one's much easier in many ways, but like that, exactly as Calum said, those restrictions sort of spur you to creativity.
Awesome. So obviously we're dealing primarily with the quote unquote loyalist legions, as you say, like lined fairly rarely so so easy to make on those calls. Are there, how different can our characters be within those legions? Is there, what kind of, again, we're used to Heresy looking at huge scale. Even on the books, there aren't many novels that really go down to one or two guys doing something. It's usually one or two guys as a part of a mass thing.
You've always got the character list at the beginning.
Yeah.
Dramatis persona,
exactly. Yeah, and there's some of them have got a lot of names, and that's before the mindless bots, or the numbers behind them. So how are we looking at the legion, the different legions being represented?
Well, from the get-go, so we've got, when you're making a character, you can make a character of any of the 18 legions. I've been reliably informed there's only ever 18. You can make them anyone. As I said, that we're going with a loyalist focus. So something that we're sort of exploring is this idea of the Secundii. So the Secundii program was something that's like very lightly touched upon in the Black Library books, but it's often the reason why you will find one or two people from one or two Space Marines from another legion hanging around in a fleet with let's say a couple of Imperial fists hanging out around with the Sons of Horus or on an Ultramarine vessel, and it's a sort of like a Legion, almost like an exchange program. Where they would have, exchanging sort of Legion practices for how to best undertake, what that Legion is good at, learning and teaching. So one of our sort of default setups is your characters were part of that program. There's one big fleet that you decide, like one Legion that was sort of responsible for this fleet, and that's who makes up the vast majority of the Legion. But your character could be from any of the other legions. And we think that'll lead to some really interesting role-playing moments as well, where, you've got a sort of loyalist son of Horus who was maybe sent on this program to get rid of them, and get them away because they weren't quite trusted. And then you find out, okay, the Horus's turn, the War Master's turn, what does this mean for you, who we fought side by side with for years and swears he's loyal to the Emperor? So I think that'll be interesting. But yeah, you were talking about, there's always a few people involved. I mean, that was something that we wanted to get at as well with the troop play system. So that you'll have, if you have a table of 4 players, you've got 4 Space Marines, 4 mortal characters. It's 8 characters. It's quite a few to keep track of for players. I might only be used to tracking 1, but it's just 1 more. And they'll give you a lot of viewpoints to sort of experience the scope of this thing. You will be in control of some forces in these, what we're calling strategic engagements, which gives you a sort of a mini campaign level of play where you're fighting through like some big battle or campaign on a world, because I think those are the stories. Like, it is a military role-playing game. But a lot of roleplay comes out of like how you plan that,
Sure.
how you manage that, what your priorities are. Like, are there sort of secondary objectives you could do if you push it a bit further, and some of you want to do it, some of you don't want to take the risk. I think there's a lot of good role play in that as well. So yeah, we're trying to capture that scope in the game.
In the strategic engagements thing, the thing that we wanted to avoid was, trying to replicate the war game. We wanted it more that sort of standing over the stratagem, arguing over how the tactics go.
There already is a very good war game.
It is a very good war game, which is why we didn't want to go near it.
Sure. So we've got the characters of the space console level people we're playing. We've got the lower level people we're playing. We're in charge of a fleet now. Do the ships themselves have much, or is that again more of how kind of ingrained in the gameplay is that? Is there elements of that?
This is where we're experimenting with a couple of levels of that. At a very minimum, you'll have a sort of a supply level, like the fleet represents resources. You're running low on promethium or fuel for genitoria, or anything you could be running low on. And some of your decision making will be, well, like, we've got to go to that supply depot that we have here on our sort of pre-heresy maps. Will it still be there or not? We're not exactly sure, but we got a box signal that indicates it might be. But then there was some screaming at the end, so so that'll drive a bit of the adventure as well. How detailed the fleet will be, we're sort of seeing what people's headspace is for it at the table, as we sort of play test it. Again, it's probably not going to be like exactly control of individual void ships, but at a very minimum, you need to be able to launch some orbital strikes, and have a bay you can launch Stormhawks and Thunder.
It's wanting to influence, drive narrative without making them do accounting, without making players do accounting.
Yeah, nobody likes that.
Well, the Ultramarine players do.
Dang, you're right. Okay, we'll have to do a special Gilliman approved spreadsheet edition.
There's an administratum expansion. There's just
comes with an abacus. Yeah.
Yes.
How much? So again, like, just kind of cutting into that, right? That the legions have their characteristics. Is that kind of is that part of the rule set, or is that just part of the opportunity of role playing within that rule set?
The thing about that is it's interesting because they're so characterful in the fiction, and they're so driven by certain motivations that we didn't want to, but at the same time we didn't want to box them in mechanically.
Yes.
So the various console types you can take them with any legion, because of the idea of the Secundi and the cross exchange. You might get, say, a Raven Guard Siege Breaker. You might not think that the Raven Guard ever had a need for it, but they are going to, they need someone experienced in siege warfare. So there is a slight mechanical thing where certain legions we're playing with, that they grant certain skills of the ways of war that they're trained in, but at the same time there are numerous talents that players can take in order to specialize their character into the soldier they want them to be.
Awesome, that's good to know, because sometimes you want the paragon of the legion, and sometimes you want the guy who will counter the legion, and everything in between. So
if every World Eaters console is forced to be a frothing monstrosity, it gets boring.
Yeah, but I can't wait for mine to be just carrying his heavy bolter onto the deck, just because he needs to hold it in his hand so he can just shoot everyone if he needs to. It'll be great. Awesome. Do we have a date for this?
Well,
Ooh.
soonish from my cold dead hands, you'll get a date.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll put it up for pre-order when we feel that it's ready and good and ready to go out to people. We do hope that is this calendar year, and it's sort of looking like it should be, but we will delay a game to try and make it right.
Excellent stuff. And what do we get on? Well, yeah, obviously you're still working on getting that right, but what are we kind of looking at for launch? What will we get in the first kind of, what we'll be able to do, see, read about?
Well, at the risk of blasphemously plugging and Warhammer the Old World products, when we're talking about Horus Heresy, we're going to have a player's guide, which is all the rules of the game, everything you need to make characters, all that good stuff, and then a game master's guide, which contains sort of profiles for enemies, campaign advice, just sort of like GM tools to run a really, really good campaign, and sort of that support that we know people will need, because I think you've kind of touched upon, it isn't just your standard role-playing game, and you've got a couple of characters. You're not just meeting up in a tavern to deal with the local giant rat population. The GM might need a little bit of support, so I want to give that. And then we'll also have some decks of cards. We'll have a GM screen, which comes with a booklet with some more exciting stuff in it, and then later on we'll have a starter set. And then after that, it's a line we hope to support for quite a while. So all going well, we'll sort of dive in and then advance the timeline a little bit as we go as well.
Cool, excellent. The one thing I forgot to ask, or haven't yet asked, is what kind of system are we going to be using to be able to play this game?
So it is a system that is based on the one that was used in Warhammer the Old World role-playing game, which so far, touch wood, etc., has been quite well received. So that is a D10 dice pool system. You'll have a stat block for your character with weapon skill, ballistic skill, things that you would expect to see and you'll see on the tabletop. And then you have skills related to them, like melee or shooting or ordnance, I think, in this game. And you roll some 10-sided dice, a number equal to, say, your weapon skill, and you're looking for numbers that are equal to your skill or below. Then you count up your successes, and the more successes you have, the better you did the thing you were trying to do. So it's fairly straightforward.
Excellent. Is there anything I should have asked that I haven't asked yet? Any information that you think we could give that? Obviously, as you say, I fully appreciate that we're not used to. This isn't sitting waiting to go on the shelves anytime soon. So,
I think something that we really wanted to emphasize with the book and the game itself was that, and something that we're playtesting at the moment is, the Horus Heresy is a huge property. It's it's well known throughout the Warhammer community, but we want to make the game accessible to people who've never heard of the Heresy. People who might be coming to this from other role-playing games. It might be their first Warhammer experience. So starting early in the Heresy, you've literally just heard that the Sons of Horus have turned traitor, and you don't know any more than that. It's designed to be an inroad for people who are new to the setting and who want to get involved with such a cool universe.
Yeah, so we're doing quite a bit to make sure people can get up to speed quickly and start playing their character and so on. So, if you're a big Horus Heresy head and you want to try and pull some of your friends into a role-playing game who maybe they only play some other dragon-based role-playing game, and they don't want to get the grips with the setting, we've got sort of tools and summaries to help them get in really quickly and get them playing a character really quickly and so on. So it should be good for that kind of stuff as well. But I think it's one that will appeal to long-term fans of the Horus Heresy as well. whether they're into sort of role playing or not. There might be something there for them too. If they just want to kind of get into the sort of boots or the ceramite of their favorite character and see what that's like to experience the heresy from that point of view. So some people listening to this podcast, it's probably their game. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I know a few, I think, who will be jumping straight on it.
Excellent.
And I mean, and for some people, these kind of books are worth it almost as much for the background, the lore that goes into what you create, as much as playing the game. And I'm sure with the relationship you've got with GW and the way they work, that it's going to be some really interesting stuff to read.
Yeah, we hope so.
And maybe,
with John's touch as well, and a few other really talented people contributing. Yeah, I think it should be.
yeah, and it might also just touch on an aspect of the setting that we don't necessarily think about so much, because, as you say, books can be very personal. Books can be very high level. How often do we think about a fleet and the needs of a fleet, that kind of thing as well? So, opening up another avenue of experiencing the setting is always good fun.
So yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think people will. I think they'll get a fresh sort of appreciation for some of it, and I think definitely kind of switching between your Space Marine and your mortal character will give you some of that as well. And the rules really reinforce that. Like when Space Marines are dealing with ordinary mortals in combat, they are absolute monsters. So that can be particularly sort of terrifying, for players who are playing their beloved junior tech priest to experience.
Awesome stuff. Where can we keep up to date with what's happening?
The best place is cubicle7games.com and sign up for our newsletter and check us out there. We've got an awful lot of different Warhammer role-playing games that we're really proud of and that a lot of people enjoy throughout all of the Warhammer worlds. Then we're also on all of the socials, and you can find us by searching for Cubicle 7, but the website's probably the best place.
Awesome. And you appear at some GW events where they have licensees as well?
Yeah, we do. I've loved going over to Warhammer Worlds quite a bit, and I've gotten to playtest games there for the first time with people as well. So yeah, we do indeed.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you both for coming on, and I'll be looking forward to ordering my copy, that is for sure, and convincing the guys that we can break from whichever role-playing game we're playing at the time to go and kill some dirty heretics. It's always a good fun one.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
No, pleasure's mine. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you.
Okay, actually, that was a Lord of the Rings false ending. We have an addendum to throw on. You have some information about playtesting.
Yeah, just to say that if any of the fans are interested in playtesting the game and they're quite willing to sign an NDA and they know about role-playing games and or the Horus Heresy or ideally both of the above, they could drop us a line at info@cubicle7games.com and just put in the subject line Horus Heresy playtesting. And I can't guarantee we'll add everyone to a list, but we do want to try and get the game in front of quite a few people and get their feedback. So if you want to let people know that would be great. In fact, I have let people know that we're recording. Excellent.
It will go out. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Right, brilliant. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Imperial Truth podcast. Had all these plans to do the units from the legacies and that kind of thing off the back of this before I go away on holiday. That's not going to happen. I'm recording this last minute. I wanted this out a few days ago as of recording, but things got in the way. So we're going to reshuffle things. This episode is just going to go out as you've heard it, obviously. And then next episode, we're going to have a little look at the units in the game. We're not going to look at all of them. We're not going to do a rundown of all of them. We're going to have a little look and cherry pick a few and see what we like and what we think's interesting, I suppose. But we'll do that we're also, Howard and I have been talking just behind the curtain a little bit about ways we can approach, particularly this edition, talking about the units, talking about the legions, things like that, which isn't the normal sit down, read out all the stats of all the books, that kind of thing. How we break it up, how we're maybe try and be a little bit different from some of the other podcasts, not all of them, not suggesting that we can be different from all of them, but look at different ways of doing things. If you've got any feedback, if you've got any kind of ideas about something you'd like to see, something that you think no one's covering or the way they're covering it hasn't been done, or what have you, then please feel free to email greg@theimperialtruth.com or come get me on Twitter, imperial_truth. There's the Facebook page. There's Instagram @ChildofFang. I'm @ChildofFang on Twitter as well. And all those things. We've got a link tree. You should be able to find it, certainly on Twitter and Instagram on the profile. I think I've got it on Facebook as well. I'll have to double check all this because you know me by now. But we've got the link tree, which has got all those links that we talked about earlier in the show: Patreon, Warhammer merch, BattleBling, Element, and all that kind of stuff. So if you do want to go and purchase anything and you want to use our links, we appreciate that greatly. I'm not sure there's a huge amount more to go into. Let us know how you're getting on with Third Ed. Now it's been out a few weeks. People are just starting to get some good data on it. What do you think are its positives and maybe its points that you need to give a bit more time to? I put out a few of mine as we go on. We'll have to see if they live up to my current perception of those or if they change a little bit. It will be, as I say, interesting to see. Yeah, beyond that, have a good one. Get lots of hobby done and feel free to bug me to get lots of hobby done because heaven knows I need the encouragement. And I've got a bit of time off, so we're not going to be, I'm away, so we won't be doing much hobbying on that, but hopefully maybe a little bit of reading, a little bit of research, that kind of thing. Anyway, after all of that, we have been listening to The Imperial Truth.